Hello, we are live. I'm still waiting for Lou. He's going to be here in just a moment, but for everyone who's already here, thank you. Let me finish setting this up. It's been a while since I've done a show that's not the Thursday manga show. So, for anyone who's in here that is maybe not familiar with me, oh, I just realized that I went live for a few seconds and y'all might have not. Okay, I'll start over. Uh, in case, because on my side, it didn't show that I was live until just a few seconds ago. Hello, welcome to the show. We're doing our top horror movies. I'm just waiting for Lou. He'll be here in just a second. Hello, Kenny. How are you doing? And I got James in the chat is modding for us tonight. So we've got our horror extravaganza. It's going to be myself and Lou each giving, I believe each of us are giving our top tens. So excited to do that. I'll do the introductory stuff now so we can get right on into it once Lou jumps in. Some of you might not recognize me because I'm not always on the Monday or Friday shows. So I am the Omnibus Collector. I usually just do the Thursday shows now, but I am trying to get back into doing other shows about comics, movies, etc. And of course, I want to give the shout out to our great sponsor, InStockTrades.com, who makes this show possible, where you can get all your comics, manga, etc., for great discounts with great customer service and packaging. They have some great sales going on right now at the beginning of the year and all that good stuff. And if I sound out of breath, it's because I just ate a massive plate of nachos, like scarfed them down before I had to get on here. But anyway, I've been using IST for well over a decade. Very happy to have them sponsoring us for almost a decade here as well. So check them out for any of your comic book needs. Big thanks again to IST. I'm not Jess, so I don't have the mouth harp or the jingle, but I still appreciate IST nonetheless. And now that I've finished that, I'll get rid of this, and I've got Lou here so we can talk about some horror movies.
Holy crap. Hey, happy Friday, man.
Happy Friday indeed. What a week.
You look like you're about to go on you're a longshoreman and you're about to go Alaska's Deadliest Catch or whatever one of those boating shows that were popular in the mid 2000s.
I just it's a tad cold. We're getting into a freeze over here, and I have I don't want to call it an allergy, but I have an aversion to like artificial heat. Like it dries me out. It makes me feel sick. So I just bundle up whenever it gets cold.
Oh, well, damn. Absolutely, man. Jeez. Yeah, we have a strict no heater policy in our house. Like,
I would love it.
we just bundle up. Everybody just bundles up and deals with it when it gets cold in here.
My type of home. So I got the intro and the ad spot out of the way, so we can like effectively just get on into talking about our favorite horror movies. Did you have 10 total?
So here's the thing. I had originally 5.
Yeah.
Because I kept struggling to think of like, damn, did I see 10 horror movies last year? Because as you all know, I have a kid now. So movie theaters are pretty much a no-go for most of the next 2 years. Just because it's a pain in the ass for me to take time and go to the movie theater. But I was able to come up with a solid list of 10 because of streaming and how pretty much everything now comes to streaming within about 2 months at this point. So I just usually wait it out. Like Nosferatu, I'm dying to see it. It's not on my list because I haven't. I'm just gonna wait till March. It'll pop up on streaming in March.
I definitely took advantage of some streaming as well, but as I've talked in our chat, the Omnibros chat for a lot, and I've mentioned in some of the manga shows, we went to the theater and specifically had the goal of watching every single horror movie that came out this year. So I only have one that I missed. I think it was called Stream, and as far as I've heard, it was terrible. So I'm not missing anything. But the only thing is, I realized that we were so focused on watching those that we missed out on a lot of the straight to streaming ones. And so I have a list that I'm going to go back to watch some of those. And also, most of the foreign releases didn't come out locally here in theaters. So my list is really American. It's very Hollywood, and it's not got any streamers on there. There's some Shutter movies, but the Shutter ones actually got to theaters first.
Okay.
So good on that. Before we start, I want to say one thing just to let the chat know, because I know sometimes there are people in the chat who will get upset if we're not like responding to the comments. But I want to say I apologize ahead of time, and I would appreciate it if those of you who are here now, if you're here throughout the show and you see someone say something about us ignoring comments or me ignoring comments, to let them know basically that I already addressed this, because I'm running the show here, and taking care of like putting up graphics and images and stuff. I'm gonna be focused on that, and I'm not as good as like Geo is at multitasking, so I'm probably gonna be ignoring, not in a mean way, not maliciously, but I'm gonna be ignoring the chat for most of the show. So y'all in there, James, our mod for the night, if you want to remind people, if anyone pops up and says something, just kindly let them know. And at the end of the show, I might be able to pull some comments out, but I won't be able to go through everything.
Cool.
So I just wanted to put that out there.
I think that's totally fair. All right, I'm ready to just kind of get into this. We could keep this a tight episode, even though you and I we tend to, and not a bad thing. You and I tend to ramble, which is fine. This is gonna be fun.
Yappers for sure.
Do you want to go first, or do you want me to go first?
Do you want to go back and forth, like 10, 10, 9, 9?
Yeah, 10, 10, 9, 9. I figured that's how we would do it. Because I'm kind of interested to see what your list is.
So I will go ahead and I'll start with my number 10. Let me just find the image. Now, I should have, like I mentioned this before we got on, but I should have poster images for pretty much anything that either of us could mention. So even though I don't know your list, I should be prepared.
Yeah, that's another thing. Riley did share his list with me, but ADHD I completely forgot.
It is what it is. Okay.
And I opted not to share my list with him because I thought it'd be more fun.
The main reason I shared mine was just because you were like, oh, I don't know how many I watched for the year. And I was like, oh, well, here's some like
a lot. I was very surprised. Oh, I actually had to scale down my list. One of which shifted a lot of things around because I just saw it this past week.
That it'll happen.
Yeah.
Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and do this is my number 10. You can see here The First Omen.
You're kicking me in the okay, go ahead. Go ahead. Yeah.
Hey, I know we're not going to agree on some stuff.
No.
You already have one in yours, if I'm not mistaken, just from what you've said, that I don't have anywhere near my list.
Okay.
So, hey, so number 10, First Omen. And keep in mind, these 10, these are all movies. Like, I enjoyed all of these. These are not movies that I'm like giving honorable mentions to. Like, these are all movies that are at least a 7.5 or 8 out of 10. So, First Omen. This one, I've never been a huge fan of the Omen franchise. Like, I enjoyed the first movie, but came out this year, so we had to go and watch it. And it's funny because it came out after Immaculate, and Immaculate was almost the exact same premise, but First Omen just like kicked its ass, like completely out of the water. It was so much better than that one. And I think like one of the greatest things about this movie to me was you don't have to care or know about the Omen as a franchise. You honestly could go in there completely dry. At the most, maybe just know that like the Omen is about a evil child named Damien, and that's all you need. But it was, I think, just very expertly crafted, like religious, like satanic thriller, basically. That even though you know what's going to happen, it still kept me guessing and kept me frightened throughout the film. And if I'm not mistaken, and I'm pretty sure I'm not, this was the director's first outing, and I was very impressed by what I believe it was a woman, but what if I'm wrong? What they did with this movie?
It was a woman. So I'm not gonna spoil where I have the First Omen on my list just yet. I will say this movie, I saw it earlier on in the year, and it was probably one of the January, March, something like that when it
I think
was.
around March. Yeah.
Yeah. This thing got dropped on Hulu, and it was almost like it was dumped on Hulu. Like they had no clue what to do with it. They didn't know how to market it or anything like that. And I think rightfully so, because there are some moments in First Omen that are just there is a scene involving a hand that is just seared into the back of my brain from that moment on. And you know the scene I'm talking about. It's probably the most what the fuck scene in the movie. This is also a movie I think that goes really hard in the paint. In the first 10 minutes,
Mhm.
we get a very popular actor and he bites it. And I didn't expect that. I was like, oh, damn. Okay. If you're a fan of the Omen franchise, there are a lot of callbacks to that franchise. There's a lot of little things hidden in there. They deal with the whole Jackal situation for better or worse. I know some people didn't care for that, involving that story of I forget which Omen movie that they said that in. It might be the first one. But I really dug this. Again, I'm not gonna say where it is on my list, but man, this one. I forgot the director's name. I can't remember it off the top of my head. But whoever the director of this is, I'm in for whatever the next project
Yeah.
is because this is a hell. If this is her first big screen film, hell of a debut, and it's a damn shame this didn't get put in theaters. Or I think it might have gotten a limited release. I'm not entirely sure what the.
It was because we did see it in theaters. I
Okay,
don't remember how long it was there though.
okay, yeah. My number 10 is gonna go to. I don't even know if you like this one, but I'm putting it on the 10 spot just because of the special effects and yeah, it's Terrifier 3. Uh, Terrifier 3. Look, man, I did not care for the first Terrifier. I'm like, what's the fucking story in this? I mean,
Yeah.
there really isn't a story in the first Terrifier. Terrifier 2, I'm like, oh, you're actually trying. You're trying to give me a bit of a story, some characters and stuff like that. Wait, no Terrifier movie needs to be over 2 hours long. I would argue almost no Terrifier movie needs to be over an hour and 40 minutes long. But Terrifier 2 did try some things, didn't really all work out. That her brother is one of the worst actors I think I've ever had the mispleasure of seeing. He is horrible, absolutely horrible, and it just delighted me that every single one of us that saw the movie in the chat went, "Yeah, no, he's terrible."
Yeah.
So much so that he's killed off screen, quote unquote. Maybe not in Terrifier 3.
Yeah.
So Terrifier 3 rights a lot of wrongs. It's shorter, it's 2 hours long. Some of the kills in it, while not as impressive, I think, as the kills in Terrifier 2, are just downright fun. And this was a movie that broke me where I just went, okay, this is just a big fucking itchy and scratchy movie at this
Yep.
point. It really is. It's live action, itchy and scratchy.
And when you said that, I was like, "Oh my god, you're right."
It is. It's literally itchy and scratchy. Yeah. The story really doesn't mean dick in this movie. It really doesn't. It's kind of pointless. And there are people online that are like, oh man, the final girl, they build her up as such a. What character is she? She's not really a character. She's just the final girl. It's another final girl. But Art the Clown as a horror icon, pretty cool. He's risen up to popularity. The real star. Look, let's cut the shit aside. The real star of this are the kills and the practical effects because they are impressive. They just are. The second movie has really impressive practical effects. Some of the stuff they pull off in the third movie, this one is really, really crazy, awesome looking practical effects stuff. I said in the chat, I was like, look, he does not need to write anything else. Damien Leone, I think, is the creator of this series.
Yeah.
Don't write it. Just, you come up with the kills and you get a really good writer, and there you go. That's what you need to do. Because your writing, no. I appreciate the attempt at a story, no, writing is not your strong suit, man. This Mike Flanagan writing and him doing special effects, I'm fucking there day one, like with bells on. And I'm kind of curious to see where Damien Leone and this particular group of people and the special effects team and stuff like that are going to end up once this franchise reaches its ending. Because I'm kind of curious how long they can keep going with this before people go, oh, okay, this is just another person getting chainsawed in the ass in half, which literally happens in this movie. I'm so fucking childish because Art the Clown interrupts a misty scene between a man and a woman in this film. And then he has a chainsaw with him. And I'm watching the movie going, he better shove that chainsaw up that man's ass.
I did the same thing. I did the same thing.
And sure enough, he did.
I was like, if that doesn't go up that dude's butt, I am going to be so upset.
Which really, I don't know what that says about me as a person, but yeah. Look, I enjoyed it. I had a ton of fun with it. It was what it was. I'm a horrible parent because my 13-year-old loves the franchise and we both watched it together and we enjoyed it. So, hey.
Well, you were right. This one didn't make it like anywhere near my top 10, but I did have it like in my document of notes and stuff as like an honorable mention because this franchise, for how low the budgets are on these movies, makes so much money.
Oh, yeah.
I think like regardless of your feelings about the movie itself, by which I'm talking to myself, regardless of my feelings about the movie itself, it has to be, you have to give credit where credit's due to the fact that it's able to draw an audience and it's done on a tiny budget and the effects are tons of fun. Like, and that the thing for this movie for me is like, it gets to the point because like you said, it is like a live action Itchy and Scratchy. It gets to the point where it's so comical that it stops being scary.
Yep.
And the effects are so over the top that they no longer seem remotely realistic. So that's kind of why it is less scary to me. So like a lot of people go in and they're like, oh my gosh, gross out gore. Like, oh, it's so crazy. It's like, it is so over the top that it stops being gross to me. And I'm just sitting there like, it's funny. Like it's very silly. It's slapstick, but like gory. So yeah, I'm not a fan of this franchise. I don't really care for Art the Clown, but credit where credit is due. These movies make a ton of money and you can't deny that.
No.
Moving on to my number 9. Let me pull out. I wish I had prepared something a little bit better, but like I did something well enough. I feel. All right, we got Heretic is my number 9.
Oh.
And let's get my banner up there. So I Heretic was fun. I think there's a couple things that were like a little bit disappointing of this movie for me. I think that it kind of, the biggest issue that I had with this one is that it ended too quickly and it didn't really explore like what impression I had that it was going to be, which was more of like a mousetrap type thing, like running through all these different things. And instead it was just from the trailer, like the way that they're like running through the maze looking thing. And instead it's like, there's like 2 rooms or something that they go to in the house. And I was like, oh, well, that's not as fun as I thought. But it, sometimes you have to pull yourself out of your own expectations for something and just look at something as it was. And so without considering that, it's a really fun like movie. If you grew up and got religious trauma, this is going to be a fun one for you. Yeah, I think anyone that grew up like in a very religious family or going to church school or whatever, like this is one that you'll probably relate to in one way or another. Right. And I really enjoy just the way that like things kind of turn around for the characters in here. But there's just a lot of great dialogue exchanges in here, a lot of great like monologuing in this movie that
Mhm.
that really like, I don't want to say makes you think, because I feel like, and this might be like a mild spoiler, and I apologize, I'm trying to not do spoilers here. But the character is definitely made to be like, the antagonist of the movie is made out to be a guy who thinks that he's the smartest man in every room, but he's not. And like, as the viewer, you should be able to tell that, and it comes around on him basically.
Yeah.
But it
Yeah.
was solid. It was good.
Yeah, this is one that it is on my list, so I won't talk too much about it right now. Um, having been somebody that I did grow up very heavily in the church, Catholic, Christian, you name it, I've done the time in it. Growing up, just because I bounced around a lot from situation to situation, and I'm not going to get into that here. But I thought this was really, really well done. This is what's the actor's name? Why am I blanking on his name right now? The man actor.
It You put yourself on the spot, and like, it happens to me literally every time.
Oh, what's his
Um,
name?
Chat, help.
What's his name? What's his name? What's his name? He's in a bunch of stuff. Hugh Grant. Okay. Yeah, this is Hugh Grant's movie. But not that the other actresses that are in the film are doing a bad job, but this is definitely Hugh Grant's movie, and he plays it very well. That right from the beginning, there's a very much a menacing presence to him that okay, something's not necessarily right. This thing to me kind of kept me guessing through a lot of it. I will say that it does. I'll talk about it more once we get to my pick, but it does get a bit heavy-handed for my taste, as far as there's a scene involving Monopoly where I went, okay, how do people not know about this? And then I had to take myself out of it and go, oh yeah, there's a lot. I'm biting my tongue right now. Okay, I'm biting my tongue with what I was about to say, and you probably know where I was going to go with that. Yeah, it was a bit heavy-handed for me, but then I had to think about it, and I was like, "Oh, right. I studied a lot of this stuff.
Yeah.
I'm very aware of a lot of this stuff because of my background being involved so heavily in a lot of this stuff, and the fact that I had spent quite a bit of my 20s away from the church." Yeah, I'll leave it at that until we get to my portion of it. I dug this. I dug this a lot.
Nice. This one, I'm gonna say a quick aside. I didn't say it with my number 10, but we decided basically like anything that we rated essentially in our top 10 or like a 7.5 or above, that we were going to get physical copies. So I do have a physical copy in my collection then of the first Omen.
Nice.
And I will be buying the Heretic when it comes out sometime soonish. It comes out physically.
I think they announced it this week. April, I think March is the date of it. Yeah, I'm waiting for the 4K for the first Omen. I wish they would put that out. My number 9, and this was actually kind of tough because I wasn't sure where to place this one. I saw it again 2 nights ago because I was like, I don't know where to put this, and I'm gonna put Alien Romulus there. Yeah, that was my number 9, Alien Romulus. The Alien franchise has not been treated well over the last few years. I like Prometheus. I know a lot of people don't care for Prometheus. Alien Covenant, I think, was the last one before that one.
Yep.
Was okay. Alien Romulus to me is a lot of back to basics, really good alien stuff. Even the fact that they went heavy into the practical effects stuff, which I very much appreciate. You got really solid characters in this one. I really understand everybody's motivation. One of my favorite droids in the last few years. He is great, and the actor plays the hell out of that role. He's fantastic. It loses me a little bit towards the very end of the movie where we're introduced to the. All right, y'all should be expecting. We're going to be talking spoilers on quite a few of these. where it introduces this weird baby alien, then it grows up in a few minutes, and it's a giant, tall. Cut all that shit out. For me, I didn't need that. I was good with where the movie was ending, but it kind of felt like, well, we just want to get in a little bit more because we have this concept of the alien and baby, and like, I didn't need it. You could have cut all that out for me, and I think this would have been a tighter movie for my taste, and I would have liked it a little bit more. But man, the practical on this, especially with some of the face hugger stuff, is fucking awesome. And there are so many creative moments in this. I love the scene where she's in the gravity room and the acid is spinning around and she's killing all the aliens, and then they have to get out. And she's slowly dodging the acid and she's shooting the gun. Great stuff, man. Great stuff. I was excited when they announced Fede Alvarez was going to direct this because I love his Evil Dead remake. I think his Evil Dead remake is one of the best Evil Dead films. I know some people don't feel that way, but I love it. So when they announced he was doing it, I said, great, it's in good hands.
Yeah, no, I agree. He's fantastic. And this one is further up on my list as well, so I won't talk a lot about it here. But I agree with a lot of what you said. I disagree with some of the things that you said. So we'll talk about that in a little bit. Cool. But yeah, I had a ton of fun with Alien Romulus, and I'm a big fan of Fede Alvarez and the stuff that he's done already. So I can't wait to see if he's because I think they talked about it. And if he is going to do a follow up to this, I am locked in for whatever he has coming next. My dumbass did not prepare.
I think we're getting an Alien series this year, aren't we? Noah Holloway, I think, is the one that's doing it.
Yes, that Alien Earth, I think, is his thing.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. And again, this feels like another one of those where this thing was done for about 2 years, wasn't it? Or like about a year, and people were going, "When are you dropping this?" And they started marketing it, and within about a month, they dropped it in theaters. I think this is another one that they dropped pretty quick into theaters and then right into streaming.
Yeah, we saw it. The whole group of my friends went to go see it in theaters, and all of us really dug it. It was a good little experience in there. And I think like most people who are fans of the franchise should enjoy this as like a return to form to like how the original, like before it went sci-fi. I mean, it's always sci-fi, but like sci-fi action. The James Cameron movie. Anyway, great installment. Let me pick up my next one here. My number 8 is going in a completely different direction from these things. It'd be great if I could remember how to use this program. Lisa,
number 8 or number 9? Is this number 8?
Number 8.
Did we do your number 9?
Yeah, my number 9 was Heretic.
Oh, right. Sorry. Yeah.
So in a completely different direction from stuff that we've been talking about, my number 8 was Lisa Frankenstein. This is a rom-com, I guess, kind of. It's a romantic zombie comedy that like does really well to lean into also still being a horror movie while being a rom-com at the same time. This one, I believe, is on streaming, so you can definitely watch it. I don't remember what platform, but it's on one of the big ones. But young woman, something happens, and a zombie from like the 1800s or whatever comes out and like comes to her home, and she freaks out, but then like kind of is like, okay, we can hang, we can be cool. And he stays with her, and over time he continues to become more humanoid, less monsterish. He kind of regenerates, and it makes for a lot of funny situations with her having to like hide this rotting body like in her room away from like parents, siblings, friends, etc. And of course she's also dealing with just being a teenage girl in school, and like dealing with having a stepmom and sister and stuff like that. So it's a great time, and I think like I can't emphasize enough how well it does at balancing both the like the teen rom-com stuff with being a horror movie. And I don't want to spoil any of the actual like horror aspects of it, but it does go pretty hard into that. Like there are violent scenes. There are really like out there scenes in this movie that just kind of completely sold it on me. And I have to push that because there's another movie that was sorry, I didn't mean to take that down, but there's another movie that came out this past year that was also a rom-com horror, Your Monster, that is it kind of misses the mark. It's a very fun movie, but it's like 95% rom-com and only 5% horror. So when tallying up all my considerations for what my top 10 would be, I couldn't even consider this because I'm like, it's not enough of a horror movie. And Lisa Frankenstein, I have to give it its flowers because it does that well. And it's also just a really dang fun time. Like I had such a good time watching Lisa Frankenstein. And that's another one that I did get a copy of it, even though I can totally watch it on streaming without issue. Like, where'd the dang picture go? Here it is. All right, there it is. I love I tried to pick like different posters for everything, and I loved this one. It had that kind of like weird science vibe to it. It is directed by Robin Williams' daughter, and it's written by Diablo Cody, who also wrote Jennifer's Body, and it does take place in the same universe as Jennifer's Body, but there's no like obvious connective tissue. But when
really?
Yeah, when I was watching it, I didn't know who wrote it as I was watching it, but I was like, this feels kind of like the humor that was in Jennifer's Body. When the credits started rolling, I was like, oh, that makes sense. And then I went online and I saw Diablo Cody saying that it is in the same universe. And I was like, okay.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So, fans of that one, definitely check it out.
Yeah.
That's all I got for that one.
Yeah, I haven't seen this. I love Jennifer's Body. I think in the past few years it's gotten a lot of love. When it first came out, I think it was not well received.
No, it was. I worked at the theater during that time, and I remember when it came out, not only did like very few people go to see it, but also it was just getting pretty much fully panned. And one of the big reasons is because the way the movie was marketed was kind of as like this cheesecake horror with like Megan what's her name?
Megan Fox.
Yeah, Megan Fox. With Megan Fox and like kind of going off of her being super attractive and stuff like that. And it was like marketing it to teenage guys being like, hey, don't you want to watch this horror movie with this really hot chick in it? And it completely was not that type of movie.
Mm-hmm.
And so when these people went, there was a lot of people that came out like, that was dumb. That's not what but like over time, kind of the movie getting to turn away from the marketing and find its new audience and find this cult audience over a decade later has really, really helped it.
Yeah, it's definitely had some revisionism in the last few years. I haven't seen this. I have heard really good things. I didn't know it was directed by Zelda Williams. I will add it to my list. Sounds fun.
Yeah, definitely check it out. I think James has it on his, because I shared my list with him and he shared all of his top movies, and I think he had it somewhere in his top general movies for the year as well. So
okay, cool. My number 8 is gonna be A Quiet Place, Day One. This thing I've been waiting for a really long time to come out. I think this was also another one that was delayed for whatever reason. I'm not entirely sure. But A Quiet Place Day One does everything that I hoped it would do right. Because I'm a huge fan of this franchise, and I really love the hell out of number 1. I dug the hell out of number 2, and I thought, okay, how much more can we take it with this particular family? I didn't expect the third one to be a prequel, much less be set in New York. And I thought, monsters attacking the day they start attacking, and it's based on sound in New York, one of the loudest cities probably in the world. Fucking brilliant. This as a concept. I'm like, oh man, yeah, you guys brilliant idea to set it in New York. Lupita Nyong'o is fantastic in this. She plays a person who is dying of cancer. Like there's no doubt that she is on her last few days, her last few weeks, and she's just kind of accepting it at this point. Um, Lupita Nyong'o is incredible in almost anything she's in. She's one of the best actresses I think working today, and she sells the hell out of this whole movie. I love it. There are so many great moments, so many. And the thing is with this movie is my favorite moments aren't even really the moments with the monsters in them, because there's quite a few moments with them in this movie, as you would expect. But it's more the quiet moments when she's with, I forgot his Johnny Storm, the soon-to-be Johnny Storm, when she's hanging out with the actor who she picks up along the way on her quest to basically just go to her childhood pizza place. That's all she's doing throughout this movie. She's like, look, I just want to go get some pizza from the pizza place that I grew up when I was a kid in New York. And it's the moments where she's just interacting with him and it's really quiet. There's this beautiful moment where she finally gets to the pizza place, and her and Joseph Quinn, that's the name of the actor, they're just dancing and really enjoying the fantastic. I dug the hell out of this. Some really tense moments, some really I wonder what they're going to do with that in the future of this franchise moments. There's this whole thing involving eggs and the youth of the baby monsters in this movie that hopefully we'll get answers to in the future, because that's the first hint I think that we've gotten of what their reproductive cycle is, and we're 3 movies into this. Man, good stuff. I really dug this.
I had this one on my list as number. Oh, it was it. I didn't. I thought I had it in my top 20. I didn't have it in my top 20. I just, for me, didn't work nearly as well as the others, because I think it leaned too much into being drama.
Okay.
And a lot of the dramatic moments, were very good, but it for me, because of that, it felt like they like had a dramatic movie and then just you could have put it on any kind of backdrop, basically.
Yeah.
That's how I felt about it. So it just didn't click for me, but like I know a lot of people really liked it, and so I'm fine if I'm in the minority on that. It does not bother me one bit, but I'm glad that you were one of the people that did dig it.
Yeah, it hit really well for me. I really dug it a lot. I have the Steelbook somewhere around here. But man, great. For me, it was great stuff.
All right, let me get into my number 7, which is Blink Twice.
Oh, I didn't even think about. I've seen it, but I didn't think about putting this on my list. But yeah,
I remember
horror fits this. I didn't think about it.
I remember you mentioning it.
Shit, I should have added.
And
sorry. I'm regretting not putting this on my list now.
Well, hey, whatever. We'll
sorry.
give you a chance to talk about it. But I remember you mentioning it because I think you watched it before I did, and I just by the vibe of what you were saying, I think I might have liked it a lot more than you did.
Yeah.
But this one I actually didn't catch in theaters. I caught it on. I had to rent it on Amazon.
Me too.
But because it's not like on any free streaming yet, but I was like, okay, I can do that, because of all the ones that I missed in theaters, this was the only one that actually like all the ones I missed in theaters that played around me. I want to make sure I say that this was the only one that actually got positive response. And I had seen it on a couple of other like people talking about it, and like movie shows online and stuff that had mentioned it. And I was like, okay, so we're gonna have to check this one out. And I wound up liking it enough that of course I had to pick up even though I already spent the money renting it, I picked up the Blu-ray copy. So this one was great, and it's a lot of people found that it was a little bit too hard to watch. because of certain things that happen in this movie.
Mhm.
And I don't blame them. Like, it is one of the only movies I've ever seen that has a content warning at the beginning, like a horror movie that tells you, like, hey, if you are averse to, like, SA and stuff like that, just
Yeah.
keep in mind that that's a big part of this movie. And people came out saying like it was too much, like the scenes that they put in there, and they were a lot. It was
A lot.
it was hard to watch those things, but I it wasn't in a bad it felt like that needed to be in there. So it's directed by Zoe Kravitz. I believe it's her first directorial this is her directorial debut, if I'm not mistaken.
Hell of a directorial
Yeah,
debut.
like, even if I look back on this in time and I don't think as fondly of it as I do now, it is still such a well-directed movie.
It is.
But it's something that when it came out, um, you if you watch the trailers, you can already tell like basically what the idea here is. So it's not going to be many spoilers for me to say like when it came out, it was before the stuff about Diddy came out.
Right.
And so people watching it, you have the impression of basically they look at it and they're like, oh, like it's supposed to be like Epstein's Island.
Mhm.
But shortly thereafter, the release, all the information about Diddy came out. And when you think about the fact for just a second that Zoe Kravitz, someone who comes from an entertainment family whose both parents have been in the business for like 40 years or so, like, you
Yeah.
realize that this was probably written in reaction to things that she either firsthand was exposed to,
Yeah.
um, being in the industry, or stuff that she knew about because of her family.
Yeah.
And when you think about that while watching the movie and having the knowledge of like everything that's come out after this came out, it hits a lot heavier.
Yes, it does.
Um, but while the subject matter is so heavy, the writing is so punchy that you like it is legitimately funny, even though it's uncomfortably so. Like the whole situation is uncomfortable, but there are so many moments in here that are legitimately funny, and it balances so well because you have these great actors that are often in comedic roles, that are playing these characters that are just perfectly fit to this kind of situation.
Mhm.
And so it just there's this really it's weird, this weird balance of like very gross uncomfortable horror and legitimately punchy funny writing that I think, reading what other people thought, there were some that just they didn't like that about it, but I thought it was such a good aspect of this movie. I recommend it very much, but I definitely say go in with apprehension if you do have issues with certain things, and pay attention to the content warning at the beginning. That's why it's there. If it doesn't matter to you, then that means that you're good to go on, but it matters to someone, and that's why they put it there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. I don't think I got a content warning when I watched this on streaming.
Really?
Either that or I just didn't catch it. I'm not entirely sure. Um, this is not on my list mostly because it's I don't know. I didn't classify it as horror, but I really like this a lot, and the fact that this is Zoe Kravitz's debut is just even more impressive. Zoe Kravitz, who her dad is Lenny Kravitz, who looks freaking amazing for 60 years old. He's in better shape than I've ever been in my life at 60 years. Oh my god! And Zoe Kravitz's mom is Lisa Bonet, who, my god, was my childhood crush. I had the biggest crush on Lisa Bonet as a kid. Um, and hell of a debut, man. Channing Tatum is really good in this. He's
Yeah.
really, really good. Uh, Channing Tatum over the last few years has gotten kind of this. He plays the big dumb guy in a lot of movies to comedic relief and stuff like that. Here, he's a little bit more menacing, and I really like to see him flex a little bit here. I think he's very talented as an actor. I think he shows some of his chops here. There are some really tense moments and some really tense scenes. There's a lot of moments when you're watching this where you're going, I'm not entirely sure what the context of a lot of this is. And then it wraps back around and you see what the actual context of it is. Christian Slater is great in this, which I'm so happy that Christian Slater's been getting work lately because I think he's really good as an actor. He's in Dexter right now, the prequel series, and he's really good at that. Yeah, he's really good in that. I watched this not necessarily knowing what the context of the movie was. This was kind of a blind watch for my wife and I, where we were home Friday night, kid was already asleep. So we were like, yeah, let's put this on. It's a Channing Tatum movie. My wife likes Channing Tatum. I had heard some things about it. And as I was watching it, I was going, huh, in lieu of recent events that have come out, I'm kind of wondering if this was supposed to be like, this is really going on. And they were trying to say it without flat out saying it, or she was trying to say it without flat out saying it. But now that everything has come out it's like, oh, yeah. I kind of wonder how many more of these jackasses are doing a lot of the stuff that Diddy was accused of, and we just don't know yet. Great. I dug the hell out of this. I like the ending of it. It was very, very, very good. And apparently, according to James Abel, Blink Twice original working title was Pussy Island. Wow.
Yes. I watched a video about that, or not about that in particular. I watched a video about the movie after I watched the movie that mentioned that. And I think, while I understand why she was going with that title, I think that calling it Blink Twice works better for the type of movie and the type of audience that she might be going for. I don't know. I don't want to put words into her mouth, but my opinion.
Real quick before we move on, I do agree with you that there is a lot of essay stuff. It is fairly graphic in this. They don't really shy away from it. But I am somebody that I friggin' hate the use of essay almost in any form to justify a villain, because I think in a lot of ways we're kind of past using that as a story trope. And in a lot of ways, it's just a quick way to get a quick reaction. It's cheating in a lot of ways, story-wise. Of course, I'm going to hate this character because they did something extremely horrible to somebody that nobody should ever have done to them. But they use it in a way here where, within the context of the story and what she's trying to tell, it makes sense. Mm-hmm. It's horrible, but within the context of the story, it does make sense.
Yeah. All right, you're number 7.
Right. My number 7. Oh, this was a fun one. Abigail. Yeah, Abigail, man. So this is one of those where I kind of wish the marketing didn't give away the big reveal of this. I think that they deliberately kind of hid what this movie is, or they wanted to hide what this movie is. The fucking marketing couldn't hold back on what the actual reveal of this movie is, because it's not until, what would you say, 30, 40 minutes into a 2-hour-ish movie that we get revealed what Abigail actually is. And that's supposed to be a huge reveal. I was kicking myself when the trailer revealed that. I love this. I really did. The whole concept of, look, we're talking spoilers. The whole concept of a bunch of thieves and a bunch of crooked ass people are hired to kidnap this little girl and bring her to a safe house. They kidnap her, they bring her to a safe house, and it's revealed, oh, this little girl is like a 4,000-year-old vampire, and she is going to fuck us all up throughout the course of this movie. This was so much fun to me. It's a bottle film. It worked on so many different levels. There's great special effects moments. What's the dude who he's getting a lot of work. He was in The Guest.
Dan Stevens. Is that
Dan Stevens is awesome. I'm really loving that dude. Whenever Dan Stevens is in a movie, I'm like, oh yeah, I need to at least check this out. He was in Cuckoo, but I didn't get a chance to check it out. He's great in this. He takes a turn towards the ending where I'm like, oh yeah, you're Dan Stevens. Of course you're going to take this turn in the movie. And there's this really look, my favorite horror, okay, so it's a vampire movie. Turns out the little girl's a vampire, right? My favorite vampire film of all time, and I think the best vampire film of all time, is Near Dark. I don't know if you've ever seen it, but dude, you watch Near Dark. You will love Near Dark. It's so great. There's a shot where Dan Stevens puts these black glasses on, and I'm like, you have seen Near Dark, because that is almost an exact shot from that movie, and it's an iconic scene with Bill Paxton in a bar. Oh my God, it's so much fun, man. And not only that, you get to see all these characters get picked off, and a lot of them are really assholes, but you kind of start feeling bad for them as you go through the movie, and you start getting bits and pieces revealed of a lot of these characters and why they're in the situation that they're in, and you start kind of falling in love with some of them, and you're like, oh man, yeah, you're a thief and you're a con man, but you're kind of likable to a certain extent. He's a big guy, and he plays the main antagonist in Kingdom of the Planet of the Apes.
Kevin
Durant.
Yeah.
Kevin Durant is awesome in this. He plays a heavy who's a dummy, but he's so much fun in the movie because of it. If you guys haven't seen Abigail, you're missing out. It's on Hulu right now. I'm praying this gets a 4K disc because I'm picking it up day one.
And I have the Blu-ray, so it is on my list, but not just yet. So I'll save my discussion about Abigail for when I get there. I don't have that much more to say about it, but it's a ton of fun. Yeah. So now my number 6 is Strange Darling.
Oh, this was good.
This one
very good.
This one's a lot of fun. This is one of those that starts in media res, but not just that, but like it spells out for you that there are like, 5 or 6 acts or whatever. Mm-hmm. And but it's out of order. It's like very out of order, and there's reason for that. And so right when the movie starts, you get a scene of this woman looking torn the fuck up, running through an open field away from someone who is trying to shoot her down. And then it goes backwards, and you see that she was like in a car running away from him, and he's chasing her down in his truck. And so slowly it kind of unravels the whole story of, why this guy is chasing her and what's going on. And it is just very expertly crafted thriller that I loved almost every single ounce of this film. The performances, the way that it's shot, just the whole, like the creativity of the way that it's presented, really, really worked for me. And the only reason why this didn't get even further up is because literally like the end of the movie, like the last 10 or 15 minutes is like so aggressively sexy for no reason.
You and I had the exact same fucking problem with, they were this close from me going, wow, they knocked this out of the park. It's a home run. This close. And then literally at the last about 10-minute mark, I went, what the fuck are you doing? Why is this here?
And it's in a way that, like, the way that this sexism is portrayed, it is very hard to disconnect it from like the writer director.
It's so blatantly bad.
Yeah, because it makes it makes it seem that is the statement that the writer director of the movie was making.
Oh.
And it was like, dude, why? Like, you just shit the bed in the 9th inning. Like, why would you do this? And that's the, like, literally everything else about this movie was knocking it out of the park, like pitch
Yeah.
perfect, scene for scene, blow for blow. And then you get to the end and it was like, really? What? And
Yeah.
it's very distracting. And it kind of like it takes you out. Like it took us out of it. And then I had to kind of sit on it for a minute and like let myself come back to it and like be able to, because if you sit on it for too long and think about it, it kind of starts to infect the rest of the movie.
Mhm.
But if you can detach that scene at the end, which you almost could just turn the movie off before it, almost.
Almost. Yeah, almost.
And if you detach that, the rest of the movie doesn't get infected by that ideology,
Yeah.
and it's all great.
You wanna know the thing that because I have this on my list as well. The thing that sucks about what you're talking about is because there is a way that they could have done that exact
Oh, yeah.
same scene that we are talking about and done it well. There's
Yeah,
a way to do it, and it's really obvious, and I'm really surprised somebody in the editing bay didn't go, "Dude, we can change this with, like, a day of shooting. It
yeah,
won't take long. Like, this is a small scene. We can change this. This does not work at all within the context of the entirety of what you have set up for about an hour and 45 or an hour and 50 minutes."
yeah.
And it's so blatantly obvious, and I'm surprised I left it in there. Again, I have this on my list. It's a little bit closer to the top of my list, so I won't talk too much about it. But I'm quick question. I'm curious. How
Mm.
long did it take you to realize kind of the bait and switch of this? Because within the first 15 minutes, I looked at my wife when I went, I bet you this is actually what's going on. Now, I didn't understand the full context
Sure, yeah.
of what's going on, but I looked at her and I said, yeah, I bet this is this and this person is this. And we don't really fully understand what's going on. But like a lot of good twisty stuff, I'm like, okay, yeah, I called that, but to what extent I didn't
Right,
necessarily understand
right.
until we get the bigger picture.
Right. And that's something that I felt with I figured it out later than you did. If you're saying within the first 15 minutes, it was later than that for me. But I think talking about the extent of twists, that's how I felt with Abigail. Like they gave
Mhm.
you the main twist, but there were other things that came after it. And it's like,
Mhm.
but anyway, that's my thoughts on Strange Darling. I think despite the marred spot at the end, that this is definitely worth checking out
Yeah.
um, if you like thriller movies.
Yeah.
Sure.
And by the way, we're being super vague on this one because we literally cannot talk too much about the plot. The the plot is so integral to this movie and how it's set up. To talk really too much about it would give away the whole reason to watch the movie, I think. Um, number 6 for me. Yeah, we're on 6. I think this one's gonna be way higher up on your list, but I put The Substance on my list. The Substance is getting a lot of love. I think they haven't announced Oscar nominations yet, right? Have they?
I don't think so.
I think Demi Moore will be up there, because she bears it all in The Substance. She shows you everything. I went into this not necessarily cold, but I wasn't 100% sure what exactly the story was gonna be. I had heard that it was a commentary on beauty standards and how Hollywood treats women, especially when they get older. I fully did not expect a semi David Cronenberg film to come out of this. And holy crap, this knocked my socks off, man. I think it is a bit too long, and I think for a lot of people, once you get to the last, I want to say 10 minutes,
Mhm.
that's going to be a make or break for you for this film. I didn't necessarily love the last 10 minutes of it, but upon reflection, I'm like, yeah, this kind of makes sense. You were building up to it, so you just went kind of gung ho for it. Um, I still didn't love the last 10 minutes, but I enjoyed it upon reflection. This is Demi Moore crushes this. She's under a lot of prosthetics throughout a huge chunk of the movie. What's the other woman, the other lady's name?
Margaret Qualley.
Margaret Qualley is also fantastic in this, who plays a more idealized version of Demi Moore. Well, okay, we're talking spoilers. All right. So the substance in this, basically, it's about how this aging actress is fired from her position, and she's contacted by this office, or she finds about this office that's like, hey, you want a younger, better version of you? Cool. We can do that for you. Follow these instructions and blah, 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 blah. So she follows the instructions, and basically what ends up happening is she passes out and she wakes up in a younger, more prettier version of herself, who they keep saying throughout the film, this is you. You are this person. The catch is here that her original body is still laying on the floor of when she wakes up, and in this younger version that she's in, there are certain rules to it. You have to return to you have to switch bodies back and forth. I think it's every 7 days or something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or else there's consequences to it. What you do to one body affects the other body. It's wild. It is so wild. But the messaging in it is great, and it has a lot to say. It's brilliant. It's very original. I dug the hell out of this. A lot of people are saying it's very Cronenberg. Like, it's not quite Cronenberg-y enough for me to be considered a Cronenberg film, but it reaches up there. Body horror-wise, this thing goes for it, man. There's a lot of body horror stuff in here. I'm like, oh my God, that's disgusting. Especially when you start getting towards the ending.
It's really funny. This isn't on my list at all.
Really?
Yeah, this did not work for me at all.
Wow. Okay.
Any level.
Okay.
So I felt like the messaging was way too ham-fisted.
Okay.
Because there are points in the movie where they literally tell you, like, they're like basically telling you old is gross. Like, and I was like, I don't need you to tell me what you're trying to show. Like, show it, don't tell it.
Yeah.
And they could very easily continue to show it without telling it.
Mm-hmm.
It got, I guess, too predictable a lot of the times.
Okay.
That was a lesser problem for me. I think the two biggest problems for me, one is that it doesn't feel like it works in any semblance of a actualized universe.
Mm-hmm.
It's very much like in its own little snow globe of a world, like,
Mm-hmm.
and it doesn't feel like anything that happens outside of this like, just getting realistic about, I'm gonna brief spoilers, like, she gets fired because from her job as an exercise person, like, she does the TV exercise stuff that was popular in like the 80s, except it's supposed to take place like in modern day, and it just, like, from the get-go, immediately I was like, in the year of 2024, like, there is no way that a network television exercise program is going to be host to the biggest star in the universe.
Yeah.
Like that. So that kind of pulled me out. And just the fact that, like, everyone in the world would know this person and everyone in the world would care about her getting replaced by this other person. So all of those things didn't work for me. It just didn't feel like the world had been built around the film at all. But the main thing was, going into it, there were so many people online talking about how, like, this is the greatest body horror movie ever. And so we haven't had that many good body horror movies in recent years. And my expectations were, like, high. And I go in, and it was like the most wants to be Cronenberg thing I've ever seen. And it just didn't hit for me at all. Like, the body horror in this movie for me felt so lazy that, like, it was a disappointment. And I came out of the movie like I legitimately could not understand why so many people have loved this movie as much as they do, because I'm just on the complete opposite end of the spectrum. And
Mhm.
it's like the more and more, like I've had other friends and stuff tell me about how much they enjoyed it, despite like I come out and I'm like, man, I really hated this movie, and they come back and they're like, oh, I loved it. Like that's
Yeah.
crazy, and it makes me feel like isolated in my opinion. And so, like, if you've ever had that where you feel isolated in your opinion, you
Yeah.
almost kind of stew in it and start to like hate this thing more. And, like, I feel like it's becoming unfair to this movie, and I'm like, it's not a big deal. And so I'm like, I really don't like it.
Yeah.
I can't recommend it at all,
Okay. All
uh,
right.
personally. But hey, I'm not gonna sit here and argue with everyone else about it, because obviously I am in the vast minority here, and you
Yeah.
know what? It is what it is.
That's fair, man. Riley just told me to fuck off, everybody. If you haven't checked it out. So we will be ending the stream early. No, I'm kidding. I'm kidding. No, hey, it worked for me. It
Yeah,
worked really hard for me. I was actually so when I finished watching it, I had kind of a reaction of I don't know how I feel about this, but I sat with it and I really processed it. And I went, yeah, this works a whole lot more for me. And I really enjoyed it a lot. And I was talking to my wife the next morning over breakfast and we were discussing it. And I think that's kind of what sealed it in you a little bit more for me. I
mhm,
was like, no, I really enjoy this. I want to get the 4K of it.
yeah,
I do think everybody hyping it up as Cronenberg, it doesn't reach the same heights for me as Cronenberg. It shoots for it, but it doesn't hit those highs that a David Cronenberg film like The Fly or something like that
yeah,
hits.
yeah.
Um, Credit where credit is due, man. Some of the practical stuff they do on here is really wild and crazy, especially towards the end of the movie where they really go for the more body horror stuff towards the end.
In my opinion, the
Hmm.
scariest scene in this movie was Dennis Quaid eating shrimp.
I can never look at Shrimp and Dennis Quaid again the same way. That was I was physically disgusted
That was
watching
the part
that
where I was like,
scene.
oh god.
Yeah, I don't know why that just
But
God.
it's not to say this as any sort of like argument or anything, but just to tell you, like, as a funny aside, we now whenever we're watching, it could be anything. It could be a horror movie or it could be something completely different. And when
Mhm.
something like even just a little bit gross happens, we're like better body horror than the substance. That's our go-to joke, like inside joke, is we just like better body horror than the substance.
Have you seen sidebar? We're gonna take
Okay.
a quick sidebar. Have you? It's on Shutter. Have you seen When Evil Lurks or Where Evil Lurks?
I've seen it pop up on my thing, but I haven't watched it yet.
Okay, watch it. Get
Okay.
back to me.
Okay.
Okay, sit down with your significant other and watch it. Get back to me.
All right. I will
I It was my favorite horror. It was my favorite film of last year. It does go pretty hard in the paint, and it's got some good body horror in
okay. I will definitely put that on the agenda. Maybe tomorrow night we can check
it.
it out.
I think
Let's
you guys will like it.
let me find my. So we're going back. So I won't say much about it, but this is my number 5. We already talked.
Whoa.
I had a little bit higher than you.
Okay. All right.
But yeah, I really loved Abigail. I think it's just a good time, and there's so many movies that like so many horror movies that came out this year where like people forgot that you can just have a good time at the movie theater,
Mhm.
and this was one that really was one. And I like I said a little bit ago something about, you know, expanding on the twist, and the twist that is spoiled of course in the trailer is her, and the poster here you can tell what's going on. Like,
Yeah.
she's a vampire, and they show you that in the poster, but like there's so much more beyond that one twist, that while it would have been crazy to go full tilt, like let that be a actual twist that you don't know about, that would have been great. But there is a lot more after that kept the it kept me guessing a little bit, and like I really enjoyed it. But everything, I echo pretty much everything else that you said about this movie. Really fun characters, and even though they're all assholes, like you get to care a little bit about these assholes, and watching the her take them down one by one is a little painful as it goes on, but like so much fun. Like it just front to back is one of the most fun experiences I had at the theater this year for sure.
Yeah. We could say Giancarlo's in this, right? I think he's great in it for the little time he gets.
Yeah. I forgot he is. Yeah, Giancarlo Esposito is in there.
He's not in much, but the little stuff that he's in, he's really good in it.
Had a great little ensemble cast here
Mm-hmm.
of like maybe 10 characters total, but like all of them did great.
Yeah, it's a bottle film when you think about it. Really, because it's all outside of probably the first 10, 15 minutes. It's all set in one place.
Yeah, it was like it really in that way reminded me of Clue, but horror.
Number 5 for me is we talked about this one a lot, so this will be a quick one. A Strange Darling. Yeah, Strange Darling is my number 5 pick. Despite the fact where, like, how could you fuck up so close to the ending of this movie? Despite the fact that he drops the ball a little bit, the director, towards the end of it. I'm a big fan of puzzle films, and I'm a big fan of making you work a little bit to understand the full context of the movie, and that's kind of what this is, because the movie is played out of order, and it threw me off at first because I wasn't aware that was the structure of it. Where I forgot how it's set up. It's like hour this or day that. No, it's all set within the span of a day, basically. But it's part 1, part 2, or it goes part 3, part 1. The whole movie's out of order.
Yeah.
And you think you understand what is going on at the beginning of the film when this woman is being chased by this dude who's driving his truck. And then you really get the full context of it later on. There's some stuff in here that I didn't see coming, even when I was able to predict what the big quote-unquote reveal of this film is. The fun of it is, what exactly is the grander picture of what happened leading up to this woman being chased?
Yeah.
And that to me was where I really love this. That to me was like, oh, okay, this is what led to this moment, and this is what led to this moment. I've talked about this before, but Matt Stone and Trey Parker, they're teaching a college course, and they have this great concept of how to tell a story where, oh God, I don't want to butcher it. Look it up. Where basically it's, if you're doing a scene in a movie, or if you're doing a scene in a TV show or something like that, and you go, and this happened, you fucked up your story. It's more, so because this happened, this happens. So because this happens, this happens. If it's, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens, and this happens, you just have a bunch of random scenes put together, but you don't really have a cohesive story. It's, you're building blocks. And the blocks here are completely out of order, but once you get the full picture, everything really works. And you could actually shift all the scenes around to the order they're supposed to be in, and it works as a cohesive film. I don't think it's as fun, because part of the fun of this is not necessarily knowing what is going on, and then you put it all together. But man, yeah, this was fun.
So both of us basically telling people, check it out.
Yeah.
We're sorry about the ending, but
well, yeah, God damn it. I really fucking hate that last 10 minutes.
Yeah. It's not even like the ending. It's like, because like the plot wraps up, and it's just
almost like it hits the emergency brake and goes, and then the scene is like, It's
It's real
frustrating.
quick before the credits roll. They have to let you know, like, hey, by the way, we really hate women. It's so good.
Again, what's pissing me off is because I'm like, I see how you're gonna do this exact literal fucking same scene if you just tweak some things around and it would work. Oh, okay.
I think my number 4 is also on your list. So let me pull that up.
Oh, wow. Okay.
So number 4 for me was Late Night with the Devil, and this one was rather popular at the beginning of the year. I think it came out like around January or so. Had a little bit of time in theaters before it went on to Shudder. David Dastmalchian playing the TV host that after whatever goes on in his life happens, and then he kind of like has a fall from grace, and this is him trying to come back and recapture his career and do this special Halloween show where there's all these special guests and stuff, like a psychic and a skeptic and a supposedly possessed girl, and things just go wild. And it is such a fun film, just the way everything is put together. It has really fun special effects and practical effects alike, and really, like, I think you can kind of see what's happening in this movie coming, but it just builds magnificently into that conclusion. And like, stuff happens despite the fact that it might be easy to see where it's going. It still can be upsetting, like, why'd they have to do that, like, to that guy, and like, whatever. But it's such a well put together film, and I think this one deserves the attention that it got, and I hope that it will still stand up, because I know a lot of times, like, movies that come out towards the beginning of the year kind of get forgotten about by the latter half of the year by people, and I'm hoping that this one will still find its audience as it continues to play on streaming services. And I think David Dastmalchian is a fantastic actor that has spent a lot of his career in like these smaller roles, and we're finally seeing him kind of come out into larger roles, and that's really fun because he's such a fun actor and a seemingly very fun guy as well.
Yeah, he writes comics. I need to read this stuff.
Yeah, he does. He writes comics and he collects comics, and he has some comics in. I think you might have sent the video to us, but he had like his kid was drawing a comic or something, which was cute. Not like seriously drawing it, but like just little doodles that were very cute.
Yeah, he's on the come up. He's been on the come up for years, but Late Night with the Devil feels like, oh no, this dude can lead a movie by himself, because he's front and center in this movie.
Yes,
almost the whole way through. There's very little of the movie where he is not front and center in it, just because of the very nature of what this film is.
Yeah, he is the host, so he's got to be for most of it.
Yeah, exactly. I talked about this movie all through last year. It's on my list. I'm not going to get to where it is. I won't say too much right now because it does pop up later. But suffice to say that I love this movie. I love the fuck out of this thing. It's so goddamn good. It plays to my sensibilities so much. The whole concept of it, I was just like, this is brilliant. It's such a good concept that I just thought, why has nobody thought about doing something along these lines? Yeah, this fucking worked all the way through for me. I love this movie.
It's also very funny at the beginning, like how many studios were involved with it, because it just
my god, it's like 8 studios.
I think it was more, honestly.
Oh my god, I have the Second Sight 4K box set, and we watched it. I watched it again. So I've seen this movie now probably about 4 times.
Nice.
Yeah, I watched it again probably about 3 weeks ago, And you're right. Every time I put it on, I forget for whatever reason. Like, oh yeah, there's like 8 production studios, 10 production studios that worked on this fucking thing. Because for whatever reason, I just don't think they could get the financing for
Yeah.
it. Yeah, which is, oh my god, this movie is so good, so fucking good. Number 4 for me. This was one we talked about pretty briefly. This worked for me a lot because of my background in Christianity and everything, and it's going to be Heretic. Yeah, number 4 was Heretic for me. I watched this just last week, actually. So I don't know how well it's going to stand up to repeat viewings, but for me, this really worked a lot. Hugh Grant is really fucking good in this. He doesn't play like a Hannibal Lecter kind of role or anything like that, but there's always just this little bit of an air of menace to him throughout the whole movie, and he plays it up enough where like I'm not sure where this guy is going, and what his overall intention and overall goal is throughout this whole film. And once we get the greater concept and the greater reveal of it, really, he flat out says it that he flat out says in this movie that he has found the one true religion, and what he believes the one true religion to be is control. And he goes about throughout the whole movie basically showing and displaying different forms of control and how ultimately he is like God in this house. And I'm paraphrasing a lot because there's a lot here, and how he is controlling almost every situation in this room, and he's making these 2 women who are part of the Mormon belief try to see his side of things and try to believe what he believes. And to me, the whole scene, so okay, there's a whole scene involving Monopoly where he goes, here is the Jewish here's, god, I'm gonna butcher this, Jewish Bible. Sorry guys, I apologize if I'm offending anybody. Torah, no, maybe
Yeah,
no.
he has the Torah, the God, what else did he have? I forget what he
He
brought up.
had that. He had the Christian Bible. He had, I believe, the Quran. He
And
had the
he was,
Mormon Bible. And basically, he breaks down, it started here, it went here, it went here, things changed.
yeah,
And he's breaking down very popular atheistic beliefs where, okay. And, and facts in certain ways. I'm not dogging anybody that believes any of those things. By the way, you guys are awesome. You believe what you believe. I don't have a problem with anybody believing anything. That's just what the movie is. And then he gives this explanation of Monopoly and how Monopoly really wasn't Monopoly. It was started out as another game, but then it was co-opted by somebody else, and then it was turned into Monopoly. And I thought, okay, this is really heavy-handed. But then I thought about the target audience that this movie might be trying to get to and try to show them something and teach them something. And I thought, yeah, maybe you do need to hit some of these people over the head with a sledgehammer with some of the stuff that they're trying to say in this movie, to a certain extent. And I want to watch it again because I've only seen it once.
yeah, same.
I really want to take in everything that the movie is trying to say, and man, it worked. It worked for me. There's some stuff that I didn't see coming. The whole blueberry pie thing, I thought, oh yeah, that was a kind of cool little reveal. Because he says, yeah, I've got blueberry pie for you, and the girl's like, yeah, we smell blueberry pie, and then it's revealed what the blueberry pie was, and I was like, oh, cool. Even though the fact so you have to a certain extent, suspend your disbelief with the 2 Mormon women going in the house. And that was kind of a problem with me because I go, anybody logically would go, no, fuck that. We don't care if you're telling us your wife or your significant other is in the house. We're not going in the house. We'll wait here till she shows outside. That pulled me out a little bit, but all right.
I think they had kind of displayed their reasons for wanting to like they really wanted it to be okay because
Yeah.
they had their reasons to want to go in and talk to
Right.
this guy just from their work as missionaries.
Right. Can I just say, why was Topher Grace in this movie?
I fucking forgot about that. And you know what? It wasn't because he's not in there until the end, right? And
If he gets like 2 minutes of screen time.
and when I saw him, I was like, "Is that?" And then I'm like, "That's Topher Grace."
He's only here for 2 minutes and he doesn't really have a significant role in the movie.
Funny. I wonder if he was friends with someone or like he heard about the production and wanted to
Yeah.
get involved or something.
Or maybe this was a situation where they had a whole bunch of stuff that he filmed and they were like, yeah, this isn't working. So they cut it.
That could have been, or maybe they cut for time. I don't know. Whatever. We'll see. But I was just thinking about with the Monopoly scene, not only like to the audience, but I think it kind of gives an idea of how I was saying earlier that this guy is the kind of person that like obviously thinks he's the smartest person in the room. And I think it shows how much he's talking down to these girls.
Yeah.
And like looking at them and thinking like these two are so dumb. Like I have to sit here and explain every single aspect of this to these two. And since I've got the spoiler tag up here, I won't go full tilt on this, but like they definitely prove that they're not nearly as dumb as putting them out to be.
No, they're very intelligent. And you as an audience member, you go into this thinking, one of them in particular, you go, this girl seems kind of not dumb, but what's the word I'm looking for? Aloof.
Yeah. No, I get what you're saying.
Yeah.
He also goes into like showing people like saviors from different religions and how they all have the similarities. And then one of the girl just straight up calls him on it and like goes through everything. And I think that's the first scene where like he realizes maybe he's bit off more than he can chew.
Yeah.
Like they're displaying like we're not like you think that we're really stupid
because we have a belief, right?
Yeah,
exactly.
So
which unfortunately, I don't want to get into religious talk. I really don't. Which I think that a lot of people that are atheists, I'm not saying anybody that out there is, but I think that there is this towards a lot of them. And guys, look, I was an atheist for freaking years. I mean, even when I was doing this show, I have since kind of come back to a certain extent. I think a lot of people that are atheists, not every one of you, have a lot of smugness towards people that do have a lot of that have faith towards something, and they think, oh, how could you believe that? Come on, like they're all idiots, you know. They believe a man in the sky and stuff like that. No, guys, let people. Yeah, you know where I was going to go with it. So I don't want to get too much into that type of talk because I know where it goes, and I know no matter how I portray it, somebody's going to take it the wrong way. Just watch the movie.
Oops, sorry, I'm trying to fix I'm going to get my number 3 typed up real quick. But yeah, I think it's a movie that's worth checking out, and you know those who've dealt with whether you are still believe or don't or whatever. Like I'm on the opposite side of things as you. Like I got brought up and stuff, and I'm away from it now. Like completely. And so it works for me as well. Like so, both of us on different sides of things. It works for both of us in different ways, and I think that it just makes it something that it should, I think, be all the more interesting to people to check out. Yeah. So my number 3, this is another one that we've already talked a little bit about, so I'll try to keep it a little bit brief, but I loved Alien Romulus.
Wow, number 3.
Yeah, okay. I'm a huge fan of the Alien franchise, and I definitely liked Prometheus and Covenant more than most people, but it was such a great thing to have a return to form, to like just sci-fi horror like we got from the first one. And it was such an interesting plot to me in the way that it sets things up and the types of characters, kind of expanding a little bit more on the world and just showing you like without any doubt like how bad the Weyland-Yutani Corporation is. Slaps it across your face right from the beginning. And the end worked really well for me. I know you said like the last part didn't work for you. But I think like a lot of these movies, like the Alien movies, tend to have that last, like, you think everything's wrapped up and then all of a sudden, boom, one more.
Yeah.
They just hit that out of the park with this one, like grabbing you back in there for one more last like major horror. And it worked so well for me. I know that there was a lot of issue with the what's his name, is it Ian Holm, who was the android in there, and
I liked him.
who was Bilbo in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. I didn't.
Oh no, I thought you were talking about what's his face? The android for the girl. Never mind.
Oh,
Yeah,
Andy or whatever.
yeah, Andy. I liked Andy.
No, he was great. I'm talking about the one that they. Um, I'm sure someone in the. I'm going to look at the comments real fast in case.
Rook? Is it Rook?
Yeah.
Okay. With the special effects, yeah.
I know a lot of people had problems with that. I know that, like, I think it was the director himself, Fede Alvarez, like went to his family to make sure like what they thought about that, and they were like, he was a big fan of the work that he did in this franchise. So they were like, we're sure that he would love being added back in there. So like that's not a problem for us.
Mm-hmm.
And then I know that we talked about it briefly in the chat that like he went back and kind of fixed the effects for the home media release. It did look a little bit janky in the, well, I say a little bit, I'm being a little kind. It was pretty janky, like in the theater. It was pretty dang distracting, but like it was a combination of using a physical puppet and then putting like CG face over it and having AI to move the mouth and stuff. So it was like a combo of a few different things, and I guess they went through and tried to fix it a little bit to make it look better. But it looked, the mouth movements looked like those, if you ever saw those things where people would like make photos come to life and like the mouth move, that's what it looked like. It wasn't very good, but I think a lot of people were upset, said it was a disrespectful piece, but I didn't think that of it.
No, I didn't think so.
But yeah, it just, I think I have to say though, my fandom of the franchise is definitely a lot of what propelled this up for me. Because if I was less of an Alien franchise fan, I might put it down. And I'm also not someone who's bothered by like, some people were like, oh, there's fan service and whatever. And it was like little nods here and there, like lines that they said that were repeating older lines. And it didn't bother me. Like, whatever. Like that's just fun little things.
Yeah. Yeah, they didn't overkill that. They didn't do it too much because you can get really cute with that stuff. And
they like 2 scenes or something, and it was like just enough that it was fun and like, oh, okay, yeah, cool, making a reference. That's nice. A lot of great action sequences. I really, you mentioned the zero G, like dodging the acid. That was fun.
Yeah.
There was a very like Alien Colonial Marines like style like shooting scene where like they're going through all of the xenomorphs, and then there's like the elevator shaft scene that was really fun as well. So a lot of really great action sequences throughout, and a lot of great horror as well, and a lot of sequences where you're like, you know what's about to happen, you're just telling them like, stop being so dumb, keep moving, like stuff like that. This worked for me a lot. I really liked it.
Nice, man. I'm happy for you. So I did not see this in theaters. So I did not see the version where that you were talking about where the CGI was a little bit dodgy. I watched this. The first time I watched this was on disc because I have the 4K.
Yeah.
And yes, it is very noticeable that it is CGI, but I don't think it was that bad. And the mouth, there are little moments here and there where the mouth is a little so I don't know how bad it was because it's apparent what it is here, but it's not horrible. Like, oh, okay, this is not terrible, but yeah, it's obvious what they did. And I think it works. It works for me. I mean, it worked for me. And the thing is with this movie also is they have the added benefit of a lot of it is really dark. so they can hide a lot of the CGI stuff with the use of it being such a dark film, because just by the very nature of it. Man, yeah, it's fun. It's definitely, this is going to be one of those where I could see myself doing a rewatch of this, and it slowly climbs higher on my list as I watch it more times throughout the next year or the next few years and stuff like that. Me going, yeah, I really love this. And the thing is, this thing moves. This movie does not waste a lot of time.
No, it doesn't.
Within the first 15 to 20 minutes, we're introduced to our main character. We're introduced to her android. We're introduced to why the reason is that she wants to get off the planet that she's at. We're introduced to all the side characters. Boom, we're already up on the Romulus spaceship, and we're ready to rock and roll. It's great. I expected nothing less from Fede Alvarez, honestly. I was really happy with this. Number 3 for me, this thing it came with a lot of hype, and there was a lot of maybe too much hype surrounding it, but for me, it still delivered. I really, really dug the fuck out of this. Number 3 is Longlegs. I know this one didn't work for a lot of people, and that's fine. It is a bit of a weird movie. There are some problems with it, especially when you think about certain things logically. There's a sequence towards the end involving a birthday and a little child, and the police captain who knows about the birthday situation. And I go, why the fuck isn't this child locked away somewhere until this situation has happened? Like, this feels like a really bad misstep somewhere in the writing and filming of this that logically kind of falls apart a little bit towards the end, but they had to keep it there because that's how we get to the ending of this movie. So Osgood Perkins, man, son of Psycho. Oh, what's his name?
Will? Is that his name? I know who you're talking about. I just forget the.
Hold on. Osgood Perkins. His dad. Son of Anthony Perkins. Yeah.
Anthony Perkins, sorry.
Son of Anthony Perkins. This thing kicks ass. For me, this thing worked a lot more than it didn't. I really dug the hell out of this. Just from the very beginning, you're trying to figure out what's going on. There's a little bit of paranormal kind of psychic stuff involved in this because this thing was compared to Silence of the Lambs. Look, guys, this is no Silence of the Lambs. Okay, Silence of the Lambs is one of the greatest, in my opinion, psychological horror films of all time. What this is a bit of its own beast. I really liked the whole concept of how you've got this girl who she's working for the FBI, and this is kind of its own separate universe because this is an FBI that has a kind of a paranormal department. And at the start of the film, she's being taken in she's driving with her partner, and the partner's like, okay, so you guys are able to you're psychic, right? You guys are able to predict how some fucked up shit is about to go down or some fucked up shit that has already go down. And she's like, that's not exactly how it works. I kind of am, I'm kind of not. I get more feelings. And man, it doesn't waste time before somebody gets dropped at the very beginning of the movie. And I stood up with my wife and I went, oh shit. Okay. There's a weird version of what I would say is kind of like a void comp test from Blade Runner in this, and it works. You very much see where a lot of the inspirations for this movie are. The main antagonist in this, Longlegs, which is a serial killer, played by, I think we could talk about this, right? Because I don't think it's that big of a secret anymore. This is another one where I think I'm not entirely sure if the marketing meant to keep this a secret.
Just in case.
I mean, if the filmmaker is meant to keep this a secret, but the marketing kind of let it down and it's front and center for whatever reason. So Nicolas Cage plays Longlegs in this, and he's under heavy amounts of prosthetics. And he goes full Nicolas Cage in this. We get 100% crazy Nicolas Cage, which with Nicolas Cage, it can either work really well or it can go, oh no, this is not good Nicolas Cage. For me, it worked really well. Um, what when we start getting the revelations of what's going on and how the main character's mom is tied into this whole situation, and the revelations we get at the end, and some of the more darker aspects of what's going on, and some of the more supernatural aspects of it, I thought that works. This works for me. It really does. Um, you throw a little bit of the devil in a lot of movies, and I'm a sucker for that kind of stuff. Hey, and in this case, a lot of the devil, because when you're watching this, pay attention to a lot of stuff in the background.
Yeah.
Because I don't know how many you caught in your first watch of this, but I only caught about 2. I think they said there's about 18 appearances of the devil in this movie,
I
but
definitely missed one of those.
I'm not sure what the exact number was, but I think I only caught 2, and he pops up in the background, and it adds tension, and yeah, this worked. This worked for me. I dug the fuck out of this, except for that one fucking scene involving the birthday at the very end where I'm like, how do you not logically think we should probably hide this kid?
This one I had at my number 13, so it didn't quite
Okay.
make my top 10.
Okay.
And it's one that, like, while I was watching it, I was into it, and then after getting out, I'm
Mhm.
like, "Did I like that? Did I not like that?" And it was the more I thought about it, the more issues I had with it. But I mean, I put it at number 13. It's not something that I hate. I don't look at it like I did The Substance.
Yeah.
I understand, like with this one, unlike with The Substance, where I was like, I don't understand the draw. With this one, I understand. Like I get it. I get like why people would enjoy this, and it is something that I will probably eventually, like, I'll buy a copy for it myself, I'll rewatch it a few times and get different enjoyment out of it. I know that's going to happen. But there were like the story itself didn't always follow the established logic of the world, I feel. And also the big thing that you harped on a couple times, that really like knocked it off for me, at least so far.
Yeah.
But there were some really fun parts. I liked the directing of it. I liked the cinematography of it. I liked much of the acting. I liked Nicolas Cage doing his thing. He's like a uh, basically an 80s hair metal star who got bad plastic surgery,
That's confirmed
is
by
what it
this.
was.
Yeah.
And so he looks all freaky because of this, like, just botched you know facial surgeries and stuff like that, cosmetic surgeries. And it worked. He worked really well as this just weirdo. But my impression as of now is it's basically, if I wanted, I would watch Silence of the Lambs and I'd enjoy that more. And that's basically like, this was like Silence of the Lambs, but Satanic Panic is real.
Yeah. That's a good way to put it. Yeah. Yeah, no, that's a real good way to put it. I think this also worked for me from the perspective of a father, because all the killings in this movie, they stated it's the father that killed the family, and
Yeah,
how
yeah,
that works. And just as a loving father and husband,
yeah.
oh, that hits. Oh, that's terrifying to me. Of something coming into your house and taking over, and you being the father of the house, and oh, yeah, yeah, that hits really rough for me.
There are definitely different movies, that, depending on the specific audience and who you are watching it, that it's going to have a different impact on you.
Mhm.
There's one that didn't make it on my list that I know is one of a lot of people's favorites for the year,
Mhm.
and it just didn't work for me on those levels. And I can mention it in a second, uh,
Mhm.
but yeah, so that definitely, like, who you are definitely worked towards your enjoyment of the movie. My numero dos is one that you haven't gotten the chance to see yet, so I'm not gonna talk
Heretic.
too in depth about it, and that's Nosferatu.
Oh, Nosferatu.
So this is my number two of the year, and it was the last one that we went out to see for the year, and it, you know,
Is it as gay as they say it is?
It says what?
Is it as gay as I've heard it is? And I'm not using gay as derogatory. I mean literally, as in, is it?
I mean, it's very sexual,
Okay.
for sure.
Okay.
There is one scene.
I don't have an issue with that. I'm just literally there's so much
Yeah, you're wondering.
stuff that's been hitting me, like little clips and stuff. I've seen people making fun of it, and I'm like, okay, all right.
One of the things, and I think we had a good audience in our showing, but one of the things I've been hearing online is people going to showings where they don't necessarily have like they have an audience that doesn't really vibe with it, and so they're like laughing through parts of the movie
Oh.
that are not meant to be funny. And I
Okay.
think the part which you are referring to is one of those parts where basically just a scene where Orlok is feeding off of one of the characters, and people are like, it was very homosexual of a scene, and I think it's because the movie itself is very sexually powered,
Okay.
and like so it's hard to not see some of these scenes as being sexual in nature, and
Yeah.
it's probably meant to be that way. Like that scene probably was meant to come off that way.
Okay.
This worked so well for me, and it was like the when I came out of it, I was like, man, they saved one of the best for last. I was so excited that it worked as well as it did, for me, because I know for a lot of people it didn't hit as well. It it just like I had like such a visceral reaction, like going it like felt like as soon as it starts up, and it starts with a bang, like as soon as it started up, I felt like it literally just grasped me physically, and like I was just glued. Like I could not. Like I get sometimes when I sit in movies at the theater, I'll get distracted and like shift around and stuff. But I was just like locked in on this one, and like it's a slower film, and like but it's like even though the plot is dealing with a lot of maybe not so exciting to some people aspects, like every single just twist and turn of
I'll be right
what's
back.
going on, you're good, was so interesting to me. And like I'm not like an expert on the classic Dracula story, or the original Nosferatu film, or the film from the is it the 70s or so, that the second one, or the other the Werner Herzog one. I haven't seen any of those, so I'm not like super versed on Nosferatu. So it was fun to go in kind of almost completely uh, just new to this, and it just worked on so many levels. I think it was haunting. It was chilling. It was just dark and atmospheric and moody in so many ways that worked spectacularly for me. And I honestly like I I'm not saying this to be like too bad you're not gonna see it in theaters, but like it it works so well in theaters. Like seeing it in a dark area with a booming sound system
Hmm.
works so well in favor of this film.
Okay. Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Robert Eggers. I don't think he's missed at all. I think The Lighthouse is brilliant. I love The Witch.
Yeah.
It's friggin' fantastic. The Northman is incredible.
Still need to watch Northman, but the other two I agree with you on.
This was one that I was desperately trying to make it out to the theater over Christmas break. I just could not get away. I really wanted to see this when it was in theaters. I really wanted to see it before the actual Nosferatu vampire was revealed to me, which, hey, thanks the internet, we can't keep a fucking thing a secret for more than 10 minutes, so I already know what he looks like, because
Yeah.
I think they said they deliberately tried to hide what he looks like in the marketing.
Oh yeah.
That was revealed to me within 10 minutes of it being shown in theaters. Uh, so I know this comes out on streaming on Tuesday. I'm renting it right away on
Nice.
Tuesday night, and I'm watching this Tuesday night because I'm really excited for it. And this was on the top of my list to watch for last year, and I just could not get away to watch it. So
I'm excited to hear your response to it once you do watch it.
Yeah, there was a lot of hype mixed up around it. There was it's 2025, guys. Can we be a little bit more mature about certain things? Because I think a lot of it also was a little bit of immaturity from the TikTok generation and stuff like that. I'm like, okay, Well, I'm looking forward to it. My number 2 is The First Omen. This I don't know what else to tell you, man. This thing worked for me. It worked for me a lot, and I really enjoyed the original Omen films and stuff like that. But there was a real visceral, just almost meanness and a takedown of some of the more extreme Catholic beliefs and stuff like that, and how that plays. I don't know what's like. I grew up Catholic, so a lot of this worked for me really hardcore. And just that one scene in particular that I just cannot get out of my head, the birthing scene with the hand, for whatever reason, just fucked me up for the whole year. There's a lot of really good stuff in this. The cast is stacked and it's so well done. And oh man, and how it ties in to the original Omen movies from like the 70s and this I it worked. It worked for me. And it was one of my favorite horror films of last year.
Nice. I already spoke my part on this.
Mhm.
Anyone who didn't see me talk about it earlier, if you catch the recording, you can go back to the beginning because this was my number 10. But I did also really like this one. It was not number 10 because I didn't like it.
The glass scene at the beginning I thought was awesome, where the guy gets cut in
Yeah.
half. Oh, that was good. I was like, oh,
It
Jesus.
starts so like I feel like there were several horror movies this year that like really grab you from the beginning, and that's what you have to like.
Yeah.
Like slow burn's great, but you have to establish right at the beginning like what you're about, in my opinion. And I love a movie that like you turn it on, the first scene just like slaps you across the face, and then it sets you back down. And even for a movie that like um I'm assuming your number one is not Smile 2.
No, it's not small.
Because we talked about it, and I know you felt about the same that I did. Like,
Mhm.
even for a movie that I didn't really care that much about, like Smile 2, it grabs you at the beginning, and
Yeah.
it has that whole scene worked really well for me, and then it just kind of like lets you back down, and you get back into the story. So I appreciate that kind of stuff. But yeah, the beginning was fantastic. Um, moving in.
Smile 2 is not on my before we get into it, because Smile 2 is not on my list for the simple reason that it's too damn long. Smile 2 could have been an hour and a half. It did not need to be 2 hours. And the last third of this movie of Smile 2 did not work for me at all. And the thing is with Smile 2 is, God, I'm gonna feel like an asshole if it's your number one movie. So I apologize right now. Is it your number one movie?
No,
Okay, cool. So So I can talk about it.
not our.
The the thing is with Smile 2 is that it has a badass fucking begin. I mean, it does not waste time. And I'm thinking, oh, this is what this movie's gonna be. Okay, cool. It's this cop from the first movie who it ended, and it's gonna be about him trying to pin the demon thing on like to some bad guy. And I'm like, man, I'm kind of here for this. It's a one take shot, and then at the very beginning of the movie, he ends up getting at the very first 10 minutes road rash. He gets run over by somebody, and I went, oh, okay. All right, I guess. And then we're introduced to this character who she's a pop star. And once this character is introduced who's a pop star, I literally turned over to my daughter and I went, hey, sweetie, I think the movie's going to end with her killing herself on stage and she passes the demon smile thing to the entire audience. And my daughter just went, how did you know? And I said, because it's really predictable. And I hate that it's so predictable. Some cool special effects, but there was almost nothing in this movie that really like did it for me or blew the back of my mind or anything like that. And they try to do a bait and switch towards the end of this movie, and it did not work for me at all.
It had me for a second, and then I was like, like I got it, and I was like, okay. And it is really obvious like what they would want to end it with. And I think that opens it up to where they could do something cool later, but just because of the fact that this second one was so bleh, like I don't have a lot of hope that they'll actually do anything cool with it.
Yeah.
So yeah, that was not either of our picks. It just came up because I wanted to mention the opening scene of that one. And I on that note, like I guess before getting to my number one, I kind of alluded to one that was not on my list, and it was one that a lot of people loved this year. And I just I'm not the audience for it, because for me, while I understood the movie and I know what the point of everything was, for me it played off more as a drama and not a horror, and therefore I was unable to put it on my list. But I understand why it was horror for a lot of people, for the audience that it's meant for, I guess the primary audience. That was I Saw the TV Glow. I wanted to mention this because I felt like someone might bring it up because it was such a big piece that came out this year, but it didn't make it in my top 10 or 20. It didn't resonate with me. And I think it's it's obviously because of it is very much, I'm not saying only a trans audience is going to resonate with this, but like it is very much a trans movie for trans people. And that is because, or not that is because, and with that, the whole like where the horror is found is this kind of horror of like not being able to live your life as the person that you are, and like not being able to realize that until you're already like well into your middle age, like 40, 50 years old. And that's horrifying, but like it didn't work on the same level for me as it did for much of the audience. And again, it worked it was not a bad movie, but it was, for me, it was just drama and didn't hit on the horror elements.
Yeah.
So I recommend people check it out because it has very different people are all over the board with like how they felt about this movie. And so I don't disrespect or anything or even disagree with anyone for loving it. So I think that if you haven't checked it out yet, and it seems like something that might be interesting to you, I believe it's on HBO right now. It might be on Amazon also. I don't know, but it's out there. You can check it out or buy a copy. I've seen the Blu-ray on sale at my local Barnes multiple times.
Yeah, it's out on it's on Max, so you guys can watch it on HBO Max. I haven't seen it. Don't have an opinion on it.
My number one, if I could find it, was this one, Azrael.
Okay, you've been talking about this a lot. I still have not had the chance to watch this on Shudder.
Oh man, I loved this movie, and it was the most out of left field.
It's got a good concept. I know what the concept is. I love it. I think it's really cool.
It was basically, I think we had the option to go see two different movies, and I don't remember what the other one was, but it was like, which one do you want to watch first? And I was like, oh, let's go watch this one. I really love Samara Weaving is fantastic in anything I've seen her in. And she continues to be fantastic in this. And the trailer was really intriguing. And I believe in the trailer, they tell you the idea is basically like the rapture has happened. And people who are left have taken away their own ability to speak. And so basically this movie is completely devoid of any dialogue. It is very much the story is told, like shown and not told, because they can't tell. And you get some flashbacks that tell you what's going on. There's a lot of like emoting throughout to like convey what's going on, and like emoting as the conversation, basically, like people emoting to each other to speak since they cannot speak. and everything just works so well. And despite that, there's never a dull moment in this movie. Like when
Mhm.
I was watching it, it just gripped me and didn't let me go through the entire thing. And like it's so easy for something with that type of concept to just fail marvelously. But it didn't, and it hits so well on like so many aspects. And I'm not going to go full tilt spoiler, but I'm going to say a couple things to maybe entice people. So it does have monsters in there, and it does not shy away from giving them screen time at all. A lot of movies will be like kind of like camera shy with their creatures and only show you flashes or show them in the dark. These sons of bitches are shown full light, full frontal, like you get everything of these creatures. And I love that. They were not afraid to do that. This it does have because I said Rapture, you know, it does have a lot of religious stuff in there. So you might enjoy that aspect of it
Mhm.
because you do like the religious horror,
I do.
and it does it in a big way. It's not any small way. Um, and there is the best action sequence. Like this is the biggest spoiler that I'm going to give, but she goes full on fucking Rambo in this movie.
Huh.
And it like leads into it step by step to where I was like, oh, she's about to go off. Like, because it, you know, she's it the first half of the movie or so, it's kind of building a lot of the tension and building up to what's going on, and then it gets to a point where it just she's no, I'm done and I'm going in, and it is spectacular, brutal action.
Mm.
So good. Like I loved this movie so much. I am waiting for there's a physical edition that's coming out sometime soon, but I think there's a special edition from uh is it Umbrella or whatever, like the company out in like Australia.
If it's Australia, it's Umbrella. They're
I
the ones
think
that, yeah.
Yeah, I think it's through them. They're doing a special edition, and I'm looking at that one. I'm like, I think it comes out next month. I'm in. Like I loved this movie so much, and it's like my baby. You know, like I like feel like I am caring for this film as if it is my own. And so like when I see the ratings online, there's so many like I people just didn't get it. Like you know, but I think there's a lot of people like a general audience who's not going to want to watch something that has no dialogue. And so it I think just from what I've read as far as reviews go, there are a lot of people where the review is basically just there's no talking, like this was so boring, like this is dumb, and
Oh,
they didn't even watch the whole thing. And so I'm like, nah, like whatever, go away. You're pissing on the entire the sanctity of Azrael, my sweet best horror film of 2024.
so Umbrella does have an edition that's coming out. I don't know if this is just the standard. This is a slipcase edition that comes out February 5th. It's just a Blu-ray, so no 4K yet, but maybe we'll get that. Maybe we'll get that eventually.
It's on Shutter, by the way. So like if anyone was tempted and you want to check it out, it is on Shutter.
Okay.
You can definitely check it out right now if you have access, or maybe you just sign up for that free trial just to watch Azrael because you want to see how right I was about it being great. I hope like everyone that I've recommended to when they watched it, unless they're just trying to be nice to not let me down,
Oh, don't say that.
everyone has told me that they've loved it.
And if you do, if you didn't like it, just email Omar. Tell him how much you don't like Azrael. Send him copious amounts of emails of it to Omar. He
So
loves that.
if you watch it or when you watch it, I really hope you enjoy it
I
even
will.
as much as I did.
Okay, cool. I will. You have been talking a lot about this one. You have been hyping it up a lot, and I have been meaning to watch it along with Nosferatu. So I'm hoping with Nosferatu coming out on digital on Tuesday for VOD, I'm gonna rent that, and I'm gonna try to knock out Azrael this weekend because it's a 3-day weekend. So
Heck yeah.
maybe I'll pop in some headphones, and while my little, 2-year-old is taking a nap, I might just try and watch it on my phone.
Heck yeah.
My number one pick, guys. Come on, it's no secret. This is my favorite film of last year. I've talked about it all last year. It's Late Night with the Devil, of course. It's Late Night with the Devil was my favorite film. What, Late Night with the Devil? She's seen it before, huh? You're thinking The Substance is probably what you're thinking.
No, I'm thinking about the one we were talking about earlier, where the guy keeps torturing him.
Oh, you must have watched I Saw the Devil.
I saw it.
That's a different one. Which
That's what she wants to watch.
so Late Night with the Devil, man. I love this movie. It hits all the right notes for me. It's an hour and it's like what, an hour 40 minutes? I don't even think it's that long. It might be an hour and a half. A tight hour and a half.
Yeah, it's 93 minutes.
Yeah, it's an hour and a half. This thing moves. You're introduced to David Desmalchin's character, who he is a late night talk show host, and he's getting his ass kicked by Johnny Carson. This is set in the 70s. It's found footage to a certain extent. And basically the whole premise of this is that his ratings are down. His wife has died. He was on top before. He was the head of late night, and things haven't been going well for him for quite a while. So he decides it's Halloween night, and I'm going to basically have this girl that's possessed on the show along with her medium. And I'm going to interview them. And yeah, we're going to do an exorcism. Just the style of this, they nail the time period. David Desmalchin looks like he came out of the 1970s talk show circuit. He's spot on. Just the host. He must have done research on watching a lot of guys like old Johnny Carson, even David Letterman when he was in his prime and stuff like that, because he just nails the vibe, nails the look of it. And it takes some twists and turns, some stuff you see along the way, most of the stuff you see where it's going. But there's one particular scene involving practical with bugs. I'm like, man, that looks really, really good for such a film that's a low budget. And I had heard about this way before it came out, mostly because I follow a lot of David Desmalchin stuff, because I think he's really a cool actor, and I think it's cool that he does comics and stuff like that. So there was a lot of buzz involving this one, and immediately, as soon as I could watch it, I watched it, and it has not left me at all for the whole year. I've seen it now about 4 times, and I love it more every single time that I watch it. If it didn't work for some of y'all, I get it. It didn't work for some of y'all, but this worked for me. This worked for me a lot. Everybody is great on here. He's got several guests that show up. There's one that's a skeptic and everything like that, and he wants to prove that everything that's going on is bullshit, and he ends up paying for it. Man, yeah, this was my favorite film of last year. So much so, I have the Second Sight Deluxe box edition with a whole bunch of extras and like poster cards and a booklet, and I bought this day one.
It was great. Absolutely. Like I think I think this one is going to be like on rotation. Like I'm going to watch this one a lot.
Yeah. Oh yeah. This is getting played every Halloween year for me.
Absolutely.
Easy. This is going up there with Trick or Treat, Halloween, Late Night with it. Yeah, this is going up there where every single year during Halloween season, yep, I'm popping this in.
So that was our top 10 each. So we had some overlap. We had some not overlap.
Yeah.
I think it's really solid. Like there was a lot of crap that came out this year, like just having so many of these really bad movies all year. Like,
and you saw a lot of them.
I saw a lot of them. I don't have every single one like written down or anything, but I did pull even more pictures of like actually I'm just gonna put this up and then I'm gonna go through some of them that like, all right, Heretic we both liked, Blink we liked, we liked, Long Live good. All right, so we shat on Smile too. Maxine came out.
Biggest disappointment of the year for me is Maxine.
I think I liked it better than a lot of people, but I still didn't like it much. I get what they were going for. It just didn't really work entirely for me, and I think you said it. Like the fell apart in the third act.
Yeah, it does.
Immaculate. I mentioned it. It's basically First Omen, but worse. And it's Sydney Sweeney, and like I've seen several things with Sydney Sweeney, and she's never impressed me like with her acting chops. I like. I'm glad she still gets work, but like, and I know she really wanted to do this one, and she was a producer on this one as well. But unfortunately, came out like almost at the exact same time as the First Omen, and the First Omen just kicked ass.
I haven't seen this, but everything that I've heard of is, why would you watch this when you can watch the First Omen?
Yeah, that's exactly. My sister texted me about it, and I was like, "It's just the First Omen, but worse." And she was like, "Yeah," like they had already seen it. All right, you had that one. This one's pretty fun. Netflix. It's What's Inside. This was the only streaming one that I think I watched throughout the year.
I forgot about this. Is the Body Switch movie, right?
Yeah.
My wife and I watched this. We dug this.
It was we finished one. We were like, that was fun.
Yeah,
that was a good time. The tag "No Body" is leaving the same as they came. Just fun.
A second. Hold on, sweetie. You remember that movie that we watched with the suitcase and how they were switching bodies and everything like that?
Oh yeah.
That was fun.
Sting. This one was a creature feature with a giant spider.
I've never heard of this, man.
This was the very bottom of my like. It was just passable. Like below Sting is shit.
Oh
and
God.
Sting was like almost there. If you like a good old creature feature,
okay.
This has a giant spider that is eating people inside of an apartment complex.
That sounds like something my wife. Yep, that sounds like something my wife would watch.
It's nothing mind blowing. It's not going to move your world or anything. But if you want something to put on in the background that's a fun creature feature, that's the one.
Here's the thing about my wife, real quick. Not into a lot of the spooky ghost stuff, but if it's got a killer animal in it, for whatever reason, she's there day one. I don't know what it is about the killer animal thing, but she will watch it. She loves Slaughterhouse.
Rock on, man. That is if you know what you like.
Killer sloth movie.
That's funny. Cuckoo, I need to rewatch because I didn't think much of it, but I was also falling asleep.
Dan Stevens.
So yeah, Dan Stevens is in this one, and it was fun. Again, he was playing a German dude. So yeah, Cuckoo. I want to give that one another chance. In a Violent Nature, I enjoyed this one. Great concept. It just didn't fully follow through.
I need to watch it.
I think it is guilty of kind of falling apart in the last act, just because mild spoilers, they don't fully follow through with the idea of following the perspective of the killer, and it switches to the perspective of the final girl, like when she's the last one. Talked about that one. We talked about The Substance. I mentioned this one. Arcadian. This is another Nicolas Cage one that came out. I think it's on Shudder. It's not great.
Okay.
It's like kind of a Quiet Place-y. Like these monsters are out there, and like people can't really, except with here, it's like you can't go out after dark. And so of course things happen and people go out after dark and ruin it for everyone. And the monsters themselves, pretty cool designs.
Okay.
Alien Romulus. Oddity. This one's fun.
It was okay. There was too much hype around it. Everybody was saying it was one of the best of the year. I watched it and I went, is it?
I think it was good, but it didn't. I think I have it at like 16 or no, 14. I had it number 14. So it was right under Longlegs for me, but it was. I think it was worth watching. Talked about Abigail. Talked about Strange Darling. You talked about Terrifier, and I talked to. All right, that's all I had.
What was the worst horror movie? You saw a lot of stuff, man.
Oh, brother. Let me see if I can get.
Any walkouts? Anywhere you were just like, I'm about to walk out of the fucking theater right now.
I mean, I wanted to, but we were sticking to the plan and watching everything.
You're not doing that this year?
Oh God, no. That was rough, dude. Okay, let me pull this one up real quick, and I will.
Was it Night Swim?
That was bad, but
That was horrible.
no, it was.
I watched that with my 13-year-old, and 30 minutes in, we're like, why are we doing this to ourselves?
I ask myself that a lot. So this one, Rumors, I think was probably my least favorite of the year. It was just like so dumb. And it was like it had a point to make, and the point was like basically, and I'm dumbing this down considerably, but basically all the politicians are dumb, and they will work around things instead of doing things. And there's a little bit more to it, but essentially like there's a bunch of it's like a group of politicians from around the world, in this version of the world that like they like basically solved issues by forming this kind of coalition where there's like 7 or 8 different countries that each have someone, and they all come together and work everything out together. But there's some thing that's going to happen, and they have to come together this time to like work it out. And they come together, and they don't do it. Like it didn't work for me on pretty much any level. The comedy, because it's supposed to be like satirical, the comedy didn't work for me. The message was like you were going with like one single concept and pull it into a 2-hour movie, and like it just made me sit there like, yeah, I know, like these politicians are useless. Like, you don't have to tell me that for 2 hours. I get it. Like, I'm living it. Thank you. So it just in every way, shape, and form, like did not work for me at all.
Yeah.
So I might say that this is the worst one of the year. But it's just the first one that I could think of that I truly was like, that was ass.
This was your Vietnam. You fought through this one, and you just came out the other side like, man, what the fuck?
The entire year was my Mount Everest.
I'm kind of surprised you're not running it back again this year, man. You seem like you enjoyed it.
I think overall it was fun to find the little cool things like Azrael, but it was too few and far between that there was something that wasn't already like being talked about that we like wound up going to see.
So you kind of feel like Icarus when he flew too close to the sun and
yeah,
wings melted.
I mean, it did not yield as great of returns as it could have, and I don't. Maybe this was just a bad year, but I don't think so. I think it's probably every year just has its fair share of movies that suck, and like we usually don't hear about them because no one watches them.
That's true. Yeah. I don't think I watched anything really that bad. I tend to shy away from. You took every bullet that was out there that last year. I tend to shy away from that stuff. But the worst thing I probably watched was Night Swim, where literally 30 minutes into it, we watched the whole thing. I don't know what consumed my 13-year-old and I to watch the entirety of that garbage film, but we did watch it, where it's a haunted swimming pool. That's literally what it is. It's a haunted swimming pool.
There's a lot of really stupid decisions in that movie too. Like I've luckily a lot of the bad ones I kind of like let leak out of my memory, so like I can't tell you a lot of specifics on most of them. But like I just remember as it got towards the climax, I was like, why the fuck did they do that?
Yeah, that sounds about right. Yeah, I had a similar reaction. Okay, man. I'm ready to call this and end it. I think we have to do one more sponsor plug before we get out of here.
Yep. Let me.
And before we do that, real quick, Patreon show Jess and I will be doing the Patreon show this Sunday at 1 o'clock. I have forgot to post the link. I've just been super busy. Is it 1 o'clock? Yes. Patreon patreon.com/OmniBros live this Sunday. What is this? January 19th at 1 o'clock Eastern Standard Time. Jess and I will be doing that show. So for all you patrons out there at the $5 and up level, you get to join us. We're going to have a good time. We're going to be talking stuff. And of course, we have our sponsor before we get out of here.
Yeah, I'm gonna have to get on the Patreon with you at some point. I'll just got to know ahead of time, but I'll be in there. But it's big thanks, of course, as always, InStockTrades.com for supporting us and sponsoring the channel for all these years. You can get all your good comics, manga, your hardcovers, your omnibus, your paperbacks, whatever it is that you want at InStockTrades.com for fantastic prices, great customer service, great packaging. 2% loyalty discount, of course, at the InStockTrades.com if you order another package within a week. And they got all these great sales going on, beginning of the year, end of the year, all that kind of stuff. They put a lot of stuff on deep discounts to get them out of their warehouse. So a lot of cool sales have been going on lately. So check them out, InStockTrades.com. And that's it from us. Thank you so much for watching, everyone. Again, I already apologized at the beginning to the chat that I wasn't going to be highlighting anything because I was going to be busy running the thing over here with all the pictures and whatnot, and I get easily distracted. So thank you, everyone, for tuning in, for watching. The hope that I had was that we would be able to turn some people on to checking out some movies they might have missed throughout the year. Because, there's so many of them that come out, and hopefully some of y'all will leave here with some extra things to watch. I know I've got a couple things to check out myself. So yeah, you can find me online at the Omnibus Collector on pretty much everywhere. And Lou, what do you have to plug?
The only thing really that I'm on is Blue Sky, but honestly, I don't really do the social media thing too much anymore. Outside of my private Instagram, which is meant for just family, I don't really do the social media thing too much anymore, man. I'm so over everything social media wise.
Which is why we appreciate you still hanging around with us.
Dude, you guys are the only reason why I still have my Facebook account active. Honest to God. If it wasn't for that you guys, we use Messenger to communicate with each other, I would have deleted my Facebook years ago.
You know, I'm about at the same spot, so I get it. I do with other socials, but Facebook, I'm like rarely on there.
Yeah.
But again, thank you for everyone for tuning in. Thanks for watching, and thank you so much, Lou, for doing this one. I know I told you I wanted to do this a few months ago. I was like, hey, we need to do something with the horror movies.
Absolutely, man.
So we'll see everyone on the next stream. Will be Monday. There might be a Wednesday stream next week to make up for the missed one last week because my power went out. Then so Monday, maybe Wednesday, Thursday, and then another Friday next week.
Yeah.
So, peace out, everyone. Have a good night.
Night, everybody.
Thank you.